Why do you hurt these poor children?
I don't hurt him at all.
What familiarity have you with the devil?
The Lord knows. I have not hurt them.
Are you an innocent person relating to this witchcraft?
I am innocent.
I'm a historian of American religious history, of Christianity primarily in America. I teach all of that in various ways, but for the most part I write about the 17th century here in New England and also in England. So I'm a transatlantic historian. Witchcraft, of course, goes back to Exodus. There's a sentence, don't let a witch live. And then in late medieval Europe, it was revived really as a major issue. It was an issue in ancient Israel as well, which is why it's in the Old Testament. So the colonists were being perfectly ordinary, doing the ordinary, usual thing when they had their inquiries about who was a witch and who was not. Witchcraft is primarily a legal process with a strong social base. So the social base is that in villages, towns, these are very small communities in early New England, people insult each other, and you insult someone by calling that person a witch.
I came to Salem and I spent just about 3 weeks here and did a lot of research, and there were records, that you can only read in Salem. So there were records of what were called the examinations, which were the pre-trial hearings, which are very full. I mean, it's wonderful that we have all those records. The questions that were being asked by the magistrate and the answers that the witch suspects were giving, and they actually make very dramatic reading. The magistrate is pressing Sarah Good. He's saying over and over again, do you not afflict these children? You see how they are afflicted. Have you not seen the devil? Have you not made a pact with the devil? And she kept saying, no, no. Then he said, how come these children are afflicted? And she says, there are others you brought here, too. Others are doing it. And you could just tell. I mean, she's grasping at straws. I mean, he will not believe her. So she tries to cast the blame on somebody else. But then she did herself no good by that, because the assumption would be if she knew who was afflicting the children, she must be a witch too.
To most of us, the least understandable aspect of it is that 50 or so people said in court that they were witches. We call them the confessing witches. We say, why would someone confess who had not actually signed the Devil's Compact? Because none of these people had literally signed the Devil's Compact. And the answer, the simplest answer would be has to be a psychological answer, that they had absorbed the message that they were sinners, tempted. Now there's one other legal aspect of this. None of the confessing witches were executed. To prove to the court that you actually were a confessing witch is that you're asked to name others.
Well, the whole village had been fraught with dissension already, even before this happened. People were regarding each other with tremendous suspicion and enmity and fear, and thinking, that somebody they really disliked anyway might be a witch. Or even if they weren't, wouldn't it be good if they were named as a witch, because that could lead to their destruction.
Spectral evidence came up in the sense that a woman or a man would testify to being tormented by someone whom no one else could see, and people could change form, or the devil could insert himself in people and make them do bizarre things, but not legally a significant role until Salem. And that, of course, is the Achilles heel of the whole Salem process, the use of spectral evidence.
It's fair to say all the girls, when it came to the examinations and trials, were shamming. They may have been genuinely hysterical before, they may have genuinely thought they were being bewitched before, but when it came to the examinations and trials, they were putting on a show that they knew they had to put on, because otherwise they might start being accused of being witches themselves. When it developed, it really was a political episode. I mean, the way it started wasn't, but when it went on, It continued because of village politics and town politics and in the end Massachusetts Bay politics. That's what drove the whole episode on.
Very early there was the feeling that judicial errors were being made. But how hard it was to stop this thing, I mean, that was the problem. Who had the courage to stand up and say, this is really a train that's run off the tracks? October is the last session of the court, and then the governor of Massachusetts suspends the court because he's aware something is not going correct. And then in January, the remaining prisoners are let loose.
So it all, like, teetered to an end. I mean, there was no great statement from anybody saying this has all been the most dreadful mistake. We've executed 20 innocent people. What I hope people would learn is how witch hunts happen. We can learn to be aware if such a process seems to be starting in a community at any level. What it is about us that causes us to become fearful and suspicious and irrational in certain situations and end up causing terrible destruction.